Okay, well, thank you everybody for coming to this meeting that was not originally scheduled, so thank you for taking the time. We're just missing a few people and they may or may not join us, but we have quorum, so we'll get started. I'll start with the land acknowledgement. The Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority respectfully acknowledges that the land on which we gather is situated within the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississaugas and Chippewas of the Anishinaabe, known today as the Williams Treaty First Nations. Our work on these lands acknowledges their resilience and their longstanding contribution to the area. We are thankful for the opportunity to live, learn, and share with mutual respect and appreciation. I'll ask if there is any disclosure of pecuniary interest. I'm seeing none. Can I have a mover for the minutes of the last meeting?
So moved.
Adam and Randy.
Yeah.
Any discussion on those meeting minutes? No, so I'll call all in favor. That is carried. And the adoption of the agenda. I'm going to mover and a seconder. Moved by Miriam, seconded by Joan. Any discussion on the agenda? All in favor? That is carried. Business arising from the minutes, we have none. Delegations, we have none. Presentations, we have none. Correspondence, we have Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks sent a letter regarding the consolidation next phase.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, the recommendation is just note and file. We will be talking more about it later on in the agenda. So I guess
yeah, to note and file the correspondence.
Note and file. So I guess unless there's a specific question of the correspondence itself, if you have a question about the actual correspondence, now's the time. If not, we can discuss consolidation later on in the agenda. Everybody good?
I had a question.
Oh, you had a question?
Is there a second page to it, or is it just the one page? It just seemed like a really weird way to end.
Did you flip it over? Oh,
No,
did it
like,
not, did both sides not get scanned?
I only have one that came through.
Okay.
Unless you printed it, that's how it looked like.
I get you. So there is a second page. Okay, then I'm just gonna read the
Okay,
second
I
page.
did not, I will speak to
But I asked.
the people who put it up.
You see, you do that to make sure they read it, right?
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
there.
So
I
absolutely.
did read it.
Okay, I will have that addressed and I will have it fixed.
And Mary,
Question.
do you have a question?
Yeah, I got additional information related to this separately. My question is, are we expecting as the board to receive more information? And here's an example. This was like a synopsis with maps that, helped explain things. So coming, in times ahead, are we expecting more information?
Through you, Madam Chair. So you received that as part of an invite to a briefing. That and I have a more extensive one. Mine's also bigger because this is what I printed out on, but I can't say, I mean, we can certainly circulate this information, but I've kind of put it in a synopsis in the staff report that we'll be discussing later, but we can discuss. My notes from the staff report came exactly from this briefing.
Okay.
Which is, my briefing is different than your briefing because you don't have the transition committee and everything else in that briefing.
Okay, the maps were really helpful, just
Oh,
color
okay.
maps, you see at a glance where the boundaries are.
Yeah,
That was just my.
So I guess just to your point, Linda, is whether we want to circulate that to the municipalities.
I don't know because it was given to, I don't know if there's any restrictions on this one. I'm probably not, just because of the transition committees and.
Right.
This was a briefing for CA staff and chairs.
Okay. Yeah, I guess the reason I ask is I don't know that all of our members of council, at least in Port Hope, are like, I think they're aware, but I don't know if they know details yet, right? So we have a councillor information index where when councils receive correspondence, we put it on an index and share it with all council. So hopefully at some point we would get some sort of letter that we can share with the rest of council. For our municipality anyway, that would be helpful.
We'll talk about it when we talk about my staff report, because I think I say something in my staff report addressing what they said about municipalities.
Okay, all right. Any other conversation? Okay, so I'll call the vote for the correspondence to note and file. All in favor? That's carried. Next is applications under Ontario Regulation 41-24 and Conservation Authorities Act, permits approved by the executive, that those permits were attached. Any questions or conversation about any of the permits?
Just a couple of small questions. What does it mean, installation of new underground conduits? It could be for anything?
Well, I believe I know, but I'll let Ken answer that question.
Through you, Madam Chair, thank you. Yes, there's a number of fiber optic cables being installed throughout our jurisdiction. Often those are going to cross water courses. Typically, they're using a directional drill method. That triggers the need for a permit from the Conservation Authority. We've worked well with them over the last couple of years.
And the second one actually has to do with the final one, 390 King Street East. I believe that's commonly known as Brookside. And there had been some citizen concerns raised. I'm just wondering if we could just get a brief. I noticed siltation fencing has been put up. There was a site inspection by MOE, and I think GRCA was there. Is this the appropriate time to just say, is everything cool? Everything's going according to permit? Is there anything outstanding that can be talked about?
Through you, Madam Chair, GRCA staff have been to the site on a number of occasions. We have been in frequent contact with the contractor on site. The permit here is strictly for the filling of the existing basement dwellings, those structures that are being removed from the site, and based on the information we provided, the basements are just going to be filled to the level of the existing grade, nothing more. There's nothing on this permit beyond just the filling of the basement. We did require sediment and erosion control fencing, so, namely silt fence, be installed during the construction period. And as mentioned, we verified that has been installed. Nothing beyond what's being proposed here. It's strictly to do with the filling of the basement areas in regard to this permit only.
Just to clarify to the chair, there was huge piles of stuff on site for a long time, and it was hard from the street to discern what was what. So thank you for the clarification.
Okay. I don't believe I got a mover and seconder.
No.
Okay. Could I have a mover and a seconder for this one, please? Mark and Tracy, thank you. And what is the motion to receive for information?
Receive the permits for information.
Okay, so the motion is to receive for information, and I'll call all in favor. And that is carried. Next is committee reports. We have none. And then now we're moving on to new business. So first we have the application to WECI program for funds to undertake an environmental assessment for Garden Hill Dam. There is a staff report attached. Could I just bring it forward for discussion and move on a seconder, please? Moved by Adam. Anybody want to second this? Lance, all right. Did you want to speak to it or?
Sure, through you, Madam Chair. So I guess just to update the board on this. Port Hope Council has provided a resolution to support funding a Class EA for determining future options for the Garden Hill Dam, and doing that through the environmental assessment process. So the WECI program has issued their applications, their intake window for this year. Applications are due end of the month. So we have started working on the applications and actually met with the county this week to have further conversations on coordinating efforts. But we expect to have an application in before that deadline to get this work done in the next year. The work has to be done between April 1st and end of March next year. So it's a tight timeline, but if we draft an RFP beforehand so that we can go out as soon as the notice is received of being successful, I'm hoping that's the case, that we would have the RFP out and have a consultant selected and hit the ground running in June. So that's kind of the time frame we're looking at.
Okay, thank you for that. Is there any questions or comments about this? So just, I don't know if any of you tuned in to the special council meeting we had. It is a very controversial issue. It'll become an election issue, of course. The vocal part of the community is very opposed to the environmental assessment. They want the dam repaired. But I've had conversations with others who are of the quiet other portion of the community who is in support of the environmental assessment. So as usual.
Let's not that.
Yeah.
And maybe just to add, Madam Chair, the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, as you're aware, reached out to Port Hope to share their position on the dam, and they were clear that they wanted decommissioning considered as an option. So I think there was a perception in the community that the Class EA was going down the decommissioning road on its own, but I clarified at the council meeting on the 24th of February that it's not one or the other. We're looking at all options to see which option makes the most sense for the future, and also from a cost benefit perspective, what makes the most sense long term. So I think it'll be a good, helpful, and productive process to go through.
Yeah, I think so. And I think in the letter that the Mississaugas, I think an important factor too is that they did ask to participate in the process, recognizing reconciliation efforts. And the comment I made in the council meeting, and I'll make again here, is we open these meetings with our land acknowledgement. So I think honoring that and respecting that request we're doing the right thing. So. All right. Any other discussions, comments? All right, so I'll ask all in favor. And that is carried. Next is the 2025 timeline report for section 28.1 applications, and the staff report is attached. Move on to seconder for that, please. Moved by Joan, seconded by Tracy. Any discussion? What did staff want to discuss? Ken, did you want to speak to this?
Certainly. Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, Madam Chair, conservation authorities are required to publish and prepare an annual report detailing permit statistics, including compliance with our applicable legislation. And so permits, we have to issue a permit within a certain period of time. A decision on major applications must be within 90 days, or routine or minor applications within 30 days. Those major applications, for example, would be larger scale infrastructure projects or development that is quite detailed and requires a significant amount of analysis. Your routine or minor, more like the houses, sheds, decks, what have you. And GRCA met all the necessary criteria. We issued all of our permits, all 111 permits, within the required timelines. That's all from our
Great
end.
news. Yeah, congratulations. And Miriam.
Yes, I think, just a question, great news, good work. A question just for interest. I would imagine that there are questions that come, the phone rings, it's like, do we need a permit? Have we any idea of how many times if you're doing more of a PR or sort of a preliminary consultation, and then it's discovered or determined that a certain type, major, minor, or routine permit is not required? Because I would imagine that does take staff time as well.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, we do get a number of inquiries. I mean, there's a number of probing calls that start that myself or Joanne May in our office will handle. If it moves to a more detailed review, requiring staff time, we do have an inquiry or pre-consultation process. We strongly advocate for a pre-consultation process, so it makes the getting to the permit a lot easier. And there is a fee charged at that for that inquiry pre-consultation that leads into the permit. So usually when it comes to time for permit issuance, it's quite quick and easy from our end.
Great, thank you for that. And Joan?
I just had a quick question because at Alma Coleman, we are swinging into in the permits in the building department more of a with the new program that we have, customer service, where the residents can fill in their permits online and then submit them. Do we have that here as well?
Through you, Madam Chair, we do, most of the permits are filled in and then submitted digitally into our office.
Okay.
That seems to be the most frequently used method. I mean, sometimes a lot of people still like to come into the office and make the application in person.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? So I guess the only comment I'll make, and this might be a controversial comment, is part of the reason for the mergers is that a lot of conservation authorities are having challenges, I guess, meeting the timelines, and certainly this is not the case for the GRCA. So, you know, obviously I haven't looked at every conservation authority out there, but,
Interesting.
yeah. Okay, so if there's no other questions or comments, I'll call the vote for all in favor. And that is carried. And Lance, are you all in favor there? Oh, okay, great. All right. And the last one is an update on the consolidation of conservation authorities. And there is a staff report attached, and this is obviously something that we here should all be aware of. And I'm not sure if everybody had an opportunity to log into one of the meetings or watch it after announcements after the fact. Did you want to say it? Right. So I'll pass it over to Linda to call a mover and a seconder first.
I'll move it.
Randy and sorry, Tracy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So on Monday, March 9th, we received a notice that there would be a update from, or a press announcement from Minister McCarthy the following day. And then staff received, as well as the chair, an invitation to a briefing after the press announcement, which was different than the one that happened in October. In October, we had our briefing at 8 o'clock in the morning and the press announcement after. This one was the opposite. And during his press announcement, Minister McCarthy stated that Ontario's current conservation authority system is fragmented with inconsistent standards and timelines across the 36 conservation authorities that can slow down development approvals and risk hampering the CA's ability to protect communities from flood and other natural hazards. So I find it in our previous staff report that we've met those timelines. He also announced in that there had been some movement. Different conservation authorities had expressed in their ERO postings, as Ganaraska had also said in our ER posting, while we didn't agree with the consolidation, if we were to consolidate, that maybe there could be a consideration of moving west rather than east. And in fact, prior to this announcement, Ganaraska did set up a meeting with Minister Piccini as our local MPP to discuss that very thought and the fact of consolidation in a whole. Our meeting was set up that was taking place March 12th. So because it was 2 weeks set up 2 weeks in advance, then the change of the boundaries came with Ganaraska now still being in the east, but Ganaraska, which is in Kingston, now joining, and Central Lake Ontario, which is Oshawa, now moving to go to with Toronto. So we went ahead with that meeting, just to see if there was any discussion that could be made for Ganaraska possibly going, west, and just talking about, consolidation. So, just that meeting did take place. So, but again, back to the announcement and where we're at. So our boundaries have changed. We're now still 7, but we are very much east. And we also were told that after the election in October 2026, that the timelines for the consolidation or amalgamation, as they're now calling it, it will be finalized by February 1st, 2027. And at that time, there will be a board of directors made up of the upper tier municipalities. So no longer lower tier, it will all be upper tier. So it'll be Northumberland County, Prince Edward County, like all of any of the county system, except where there's a single tier, and then that will make up. And the per diems moving forward would come from the upper tier. How they would now 2027 will come from lower tier, because they've asked us to probably prepare our budget prior to December 31st, 2026, and invoice the current participating municipalities. So we will be doing that. Within each regional conservation authority, there'll be one or more, but minimum one watershed council that's going to be created. And they're going to be created based on, in our case, one or more, but one council for the whole 7 municipality or for whole 7 conservation authorities, looking at the priorities for programs and services within that area. We do not know what that means. We do not know if they will change some of our other, our programs and services that we currently do and state they're no longer a priority. That's with the exception of flood forecasting in the morning and the mandatory programs. We also, it got outlined that any assets, properties, everything of the conservation of the predecessor conservation authority, which is what they're calling it, will then become those of the regional conservation authority. So our assets will move over because, and logos, everything will change. Like there will be no more Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority. Any employee obligations will move over. They will still be honored, but will move over to the new regional team. Any agreements, funding agreements, that we've got will then move. They'll stay intact, but move over to the regional CA. In amongst all this, they're going to have a transition committee, and the transition committee, there will be 2 members from each predecessor CA, so 2 from Ganaraska, 2 from Lower Trent, 2 from and one will be in a municipal elected. I don't know the timing of it, and then one will be the CAO, and they will form. So there'll be 14. I'm thinking on our transition committee, and the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency will appoint the project executive, and that project executive will guide the transition commission into moving forward. And with the transition plan, there will be a transition playbook that will be released, I think in April or May. We haven't been given the timelines. And then that project executive will then also serve as the CAO of the new Regional Conservation Authority for the first 24 months. After February 1st, 2027, the Transitional Committee will disperse. There will be no more transitional committee. The plan also talks about there will be guardrails put in place. So at some point, there will be guardrails that will prevent any conservation authority for acting like selling lands or making an extraordinary type of purchase or anything to do with employees. Now, the Ganaraska Auxiliary Building that was already in place even before October 31st, before the consolidations. So we will still be moving ahead with that. That's pre-consolidate, pre-October.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't, I can't see that would be a guardrail because it's not something that's been planned as a result of the consolidation. It's always been. And when we were speaking about municipalities, they say also that it is their intent to engage CAs, municipalities, the Indigenous communities and other partners to provide updates along the way. They're planning on holding briefing sessions. I know that in October, they held after, I think it was November. I couldn't go because I'd had my back surgery, but staff went and they had provided these briefing sessions and I believe municipalities were invited to them. So I'm expecting that same type of information to disseminate to municipalities. So that's kind of where we're at. That's kind of what we know. I think after next week with budget week that's kind of when we thought everything was going to be released was next week. We were surprised that it was last week. And that's why when we set up our meeting with Minister Pacini, we thought we had time. And so, but we did have a good meeting. I will say that we did have he received us well and it was a good meeting. But moving forward, we're kind of just now waiting to see, what the plan is, what the playbook that they've said. When I printed this out, I didn't get mine in. Mine just came out in this ledger form. But it says, with guidance from the OPCA, including a transition playbook with templates and best practices, transition committees would develop and implement transition plans to guide each new regional CA through an orderly step-by-step integration of its predecessor CA across key functions such as HR, finance, assets, and IT. So that's really, and then it talks about the temporary guardrails. That's really all the information I have, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you for that. That is a lot of information. So thank you.
Yeah.
So I'll open up for discussion, Randy.
Yeah, just a quick thing, more of a, rather than a question, more about comment. When you talk about guardrails and these kinds of things, I immediately, as I was listening to you, treading water basically come to my mind, and that you're not going to be able to do much anything new for quite a while. They're holding everybody just hang in there. We're going to make all this stuff. So that's what it sounds like to me, and that's hard to get used to. I'm sure it is, given the kind of results that we show on a regular basis and have for a number of years.
Through you, Madam Chair, we still have our ongoing projects that we're doing, like our AI projects that you were informed of last year.
Yeah.
We still got our floodplain management, our floodplain update, lease mapping projects. We've got a lot of work. It's just moving forward. I'm not sure how many new, directions, but we've got work and projects that are multi-year. So we will carry on.
Yeah.
And we will certainly be busy about it. It's just, I'm not sure in the future how it will all work out. And again, this watershed council, how they will, maybe there's some of our programs that we've been speaking about, maybe they won't see the benefit of them. But the projects certainly.
Okay.
Tracy has her hand up too.
Yeah, and just before we go into further, for your awareness, I am getting questions from the public about that on projects that we have funded, such as floodplain mapping, watershed, the Garden Hill Dam and so on, where the public is asking those questions now, saying, is this going to continue? So, and I know there's a few hands that have gone up, but Miriam, if you wanted to.
Yes, so just further on that point, if I may, so will there be something on the website? Sort of updates for the public if people are asking questions, is there going to be sort of, or we are not there yet?
Through you, Madam Chair, I don't think we're there yet because even staff have a lot of questions like, you know, okay, we know this is gonna be set up to like committees, how's it gonna move forward? How's this play good book gonna work? We don't have those answers.
Just the question I had about people making donations, there are legacy donation matters, and I don't think, I mean, I don't know, is there at some point where you'll need board direction with respect to dealing with any donations, legacy matters that may in fact, there should be a legal review of the wording because maybe the donor did not intend to, you know, give it to a bigger organization. I just say that not knowing a specific, but is there a point where you'll come back to seek board direction on that, or is that something an internal matter?
Through you, Madam Chair, any of our donations have been specifically, are specifically, and they're listed where we set up reserves. They're listed in our financial statements, and they're specifically for a fund such as to further the Trappers program. One of them is to help with regards to students that may not be able to afford to go to the Ganaraska Forest Center. So it's a subsidy type program. So those will continue, and the legalities of what they've said is they will honor the legal arrangements and the legal, all of those agreements with the predecessor CAs. So they will be carried on. It's just, it will be done by the Eastern Lake Ontario Regional Conservation Authority, which will be the new name. So does that answer your question?
I think so. I just think of the check in the system.
We will definitely.
If the donor is still alive and it's like, did you know that this is changing?
And I think just to that point where this body, there's two different boards. There's the board and
there's the board, and then there's the Watershed Council. My understanding is more for priorities for programs and services, and I believe the board will be more of a financial, like a guiding, like this board is, right? It will be like this board, and the Watershed Councils, I see more of an advisory board advising that these are the programs important to the community or the areas.
right.
I
So
could be wrong.
To that point, if a council decides a particular program or service that has had a donation applied to it, if they decide that that program is no longer going to be offered, then we need to figure out where those funds would go.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. I will use, this will not happen. This will not happen, but I will use if they close the Forest Center, if it was decided, and that will not happen because outdoor education, I think they've even cited outdoor education, that it will continue. But if that happened and we have donations that are centered to that outdoor education, then they would have to go look at those and possibly go back to the donor. Now, some of those groups, like say the Ganaraska Gang, which donated funds, they're no longer, because that happened years ago, but they would have to work through that. I can't say how, but.
Okay, so I know there was a few hands that went up. Seeing Joan.
Oh, hi. I was just wondering about the dam in Garden Hill. If now that we are getting close to amalgamation here, would it be prudent to keep that on hold? And I'm just wondering if it would be where all the money is going to be put forward, if it would be prudent to put that off till then, or where does that fit into the grand scheme of things?
I will let Linda.
So the WECI funding is actually, it used to be a 2-year funding, now it's a 1-year, and we need to move on that now. It's quite separate from anything we've done. The Garden Hill Dam has been kind of an ongoing, we've done repairs in the past. So this would, and the funding for the dam is not necessarily from the Ganaraska Region Conservation Authorities. It's because it's a benefiting municipality, would have to come from the municipality of Port Hope. But going down the road, that may be Northumberland County. But we can't move forward with anything without this, this actual study. And so, and that is funded 50, like we'll get some funding. That's why we're applying for the funding. It will be done at 50% WECI, 50% municipality of Port Hope.
And Tracy, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I do, through you, Chair.
Oh, yes. Oh,
She's had
Up in the corner there. Sorry about that. Quick question. Has there been any concerns loud and clear regarding that transitional and merger funding? I mean, I've just been through a merger with the Board of Health and there was significant shortfalls.
Through you, Madam Chair. So apparently the province has provided $20 million to the OPCA, the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency, to help with the transition. And on a yearly basis, they are going to provide $3 million for the operations of the Ontario Provincial Conservation Authority. Agency, I mean, sorry. Thanks, Corey.
For 2 years.
It used to be, they used to say for 2 years. Now they've said ongoing. So I don't know if the timeline has changed. I won't say anything about where the money could.
Yeah, no, and through you, Chair, and I did read that, and the ongoing 3 million is over the 7 conservations to be spread equally, I believe, which is like a little over $438,000. I'm just concerned as a municipality that those shortfalls are going to come back as a levy.
Through you, Madam Chair, that $3 million is not going to the 7 conservation authorities. It's going to the $3 million is going to the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency itself. And that agency, we don't know. Now we've just received some notifications of some people leaving their CAs and now they're working for MECP, and I think, but we don't know who's making up the agency. We have no idea. But the $3 million is going directly to the agency. That's the way we're understanding it. That it was announced to us, and it's in here someplace.
Yeah, no, like I said, I saw the original 20 million for the OPCA, and then I saw that 3 million annually for operating to be across the 7. But no, that makes sense what you're saying. Again, like I said, I'm just cautious because I've been through it. It's like buying a house without a house inspection.
Yeah. I'll just read out of this. This says, to support regional CAs throughout the transition, the province is providing annual funding to the OPCA in the amount of $3 billion beginning 2026. This funding will be used by the OPCA to support regional CAs as needed during the transition. Post-transition, this annual funding will support OPCA to help regional CAs achieve improvements and program standards set by OPCA. So it could read that it's going to go to, and now there's 9 regional, rather than 7, there's 9. It could go, or they could use it how they see fit to support this, because obviously there's going to be people there at the OPCA. We just don't know who the OPCA are. And we don't know what's happening with Conservation Ontario.
But like that, we're all out of work, right? We're no longer going to be eligible to be on something unless we're with the regions.
Correct. So unless you are on the Northumberland County, for example, then you would be eligible to sit on the regional CA. My understanding is they are hoping that Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority can finish their 2027 budget by December 31st and have their levies in place to the predecessor municipalities to the municipalities of the predecessor CA. So I'm thinking that after October 26th, what the act says right now is the board of directors is in place until the next annual meeting. There really will be no annual meeting, but I'm thinking they will want the board as it sits now to sit October, obviously, but possibly November, December, because it still would be in place to pass that budget and the levies so that it can get out to the municipalities. I'm not sure, but that's the interpretation we're all getting.
Yes.
So that's why I'm thinking that in June, if we haven't heard anything different, we'll be bringing in, like April, our next meeting, we bring in our final budget because that's when everybody's finalized their budgets and we know what we've got. We've always kept by that timeline. But what we will then do in June is we will probably bring in the guidelines that normally come in September for the 2027 budget, so that then over the summer, we can prepare the 2027 budget for this board and then get it to the board in October or November. We still have to provide the municipalities unless they are going to change the act. So unless the act is changed, we will still provide the municipalities the 30 days for the levies.
I'm just tempted, if I may, to let our clerk know whether council needs to do something to say that the appointed members, because I've always come back for a couple of meetings, that the appointed members still have authority into the new year, even though the municipal term changed. That's maybe a discussion between someone and the municipal clerks. Right on that
I'm not-
budget,
yeah.
yeah, okay, early days, sorry.
Okay, and I think I saw Mark, did you have your hand up?
I did, but all my questions have pretty much been answered. I was so no, I thank you for that. But yeah, I'm still overwhelmed by this whole process and what's going on. So I'm not real happy about any of it. And I'm sure staff aren't either. But anyways, I guess we'll get through it and life goes on.
Yep, I think that's a shared voice by many people across the province, so. Is there any other discussion on this matter? Briefly?
This is actually a March 10th media backgrounder. It wasn't from the session that I attended. And so I don't know whether this is a public document.
It's a media document, so I believe it's fine to circulate it. I received a copy of it through you, Madam Chair. I think it's 12 pages or something, and this one is. And I've shared all the information in here with the transition committees, with the guardrails, with the,
Okay. A lot of information to digest. Thank you for that. Thank you. So if there's no other discussion, I've got to move on to secondary, right?
yes.
So we're receiving it for information. I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
And that is carried. There isn't any other business. We don't have any questions for the public question period, and we don't have any in camera. So at this time, I will adjourn the meeting. If I have someone to move that. Joan. Okay. All right. So have a great evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Bye.
You.
Interesting times.